Did you know that each month more than 6,000 computer viruses are created and spread? Today we will take a look at 5 of the most dangerous computer viruses that caused an uproar. Struxnet is a computer worm that caught attention in 2010 and is commonly referred to as the first digital weapon. That is because it was specifically aimed at Iran's nuclear facilities. Some experts from Atomic Energy Agency noticed that the centrifuge was acting weird. Centrifuges are enormous cylindrical cubes that spin at supersonic speeds to separate isotopes and uranium gas for use in nuclear power plants and weapons. The reason for the failures at the time was a complete mystery. Then 5 months later another problem occurred. This time it was to do with the computers that were connected to the nuclear facility equipment. Only then it was discovered that a virus had infected the computers, but it was a virus in a form no one has seen before, because it not only affected the computer but also caused Iran's uranium enrichment facility to burn itself out. Also, over time the virus got upgraded and it could affect water treatment plants, power plants and gas lines. Struxnet was spreading through USB sticks, and its task was to locate Siemens Step 7 software which controlled the mechanical equipment, send instructions that caused the centrifuge's lifetime to shorten by a margin, and send misleading feedback to the main controller. Soon, Iranian government got involved, and by the looks of it, they were not having a good time removing the worm, because it made Struxnet more aggressive, but soon enough they got rid of it. However, according to some sources, this attack pushed back Iranian nuclear development plan by 2 years. Later it turned out that US and Israeli government orchestrated the attack. On May 4th, 2000, people started receiving rather intriguing emails with an "I love you" subject line and "love letter for you" attachment. Of course, we know that more than 20 years ago, digital life was different. Internet was relatively new, and no one would suspect that this kind of email is written with a malicious intent. And what made things interesting is that most of the time it was from people that were in your contact, because this computer worm used targeted mailing lists, so it only required one person to open the attachment, and then the virus sent forward the messages towards every single person in its contact list. It required only 10 days for the worm to infect more than 50 million devices, which was 10% of the world's computers that were connected to the internet at that time. However, it wasn't just an innocent chain letter virus, it damaged much of the victim's hard drive, renaming and deleting thousands of files. United Kingdom's Parliament, Ford, the CIA and even Microsoft had to shut down their systems because of the overloaded email servers. Moreover, the estimated damage that the virus caused was as high as $10 billion, making it one of the most dangerous viruses in history of the internet. Of course, at the time, "I love you" virus dominated the news headlines around the world, and soon enough the 2 wrongdoers were revealed behind the computer virus: Rionel Ramones and Onel de Guzman, 2 at the time young and enthusiastic computer programmers. They claimed that they never intended to release the worm in the first place the way that they did it, and never thought that it would be that harmful. Thereafter, the "I love you" worm caused a fundamental shift in cyber security. The Cryptolocker virus is a ransomware, meaning that once the malicious software gains access to your files, blocks your system and encrypts files until a certain sum of money is paid. This virus was on the loose from September 2013 until May 2014, and it successfully obtained $3 million from its victims. The most common method of infection was through email attachments. These emails looked like legitimate business inquiries, or they acted as FedEx or UPS tracking notices, making people more likely to download the hidden ransomware. Once the virus is in your computer system, it goes through your hard disk, USB memory sticks, network drives, and files in your clouds and encrypts them with a special public key that you don't have access to. However, the files can be unlocked, but only with a private key that the hackers have in their possession. The malware will display a warning that if you don't pay the ransom to unlock your files in a certain given time, they will be destroyed and gone forever. Cryptolocker was made in a way that it can't replicate itself like the usual viruses and worms spread inside a computer. Instead, once ransomware is in your machine, it can be controlled remotely via Game Over Zeus botnet, which helps them to infect more people, most of the time still using email. The ransomware was taken down after international task force by the name Operation Tower successfully took down Game Over Zeus, which therefore made the private keys available for free. However, since then there have been numerous similar ransomwares that are based off of Cryptolocker code, but thankfully not successful enough. The CIH virus, more commonly known as the Chernobyl virus, was originally detected on 1998, but its outburst started on April 26, 1999, which coincidentally was the 13th anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor tragedy. Although some schools and businesses in the United States and Europe were harmed, the majority of Chernobyl's effects happened in Asia and the Middle East, altogether causing more than $250 million in damages. In 1998, the virus could be found in at least 4 private groups that were sharing unlicensed software. Some sources say that the virus could be found in a PWA cracked copy of Windows 98. Some companies also unintentionally distributed already infected software. Origin Systems provided a virus-infected download for its Wing Commander game. 3 European gaming publications apparently sent out CDs infected with the CIH, but one purportedly included a note warning users about the virus and advising them to wipe their PCs after using the CD. In March of 1999, IBM Aptiva PCs came pre-installed with the malware. The virus was in a portable.exe file format and it infiltrated the host system by splicing its code and inserting it into intersection gaps. It then reassembled and routed its code segments in the PE header's unused space, hence the nickname Spacefiller. That was the first payload. The second payload messes with the BIOS system data, making sure that nothing is displayed the next time the computer is turned on. Chen Ing Hao, a Taiwanese man, created the virus and was later arrested. Because it can only harm outdated operating systems like Windows 98 and earlier versions, the virus is no longer a threat. Mydoom first appeared in 2004 and is currently recognized as one of the most widely distributed and damaging computer viruses of all time. At one point, the worm was responsible for up to a quarter of all emails sent worldwide. In these emails, there was quite intriguing message: "I'm just doing my job, nothing personal. Sorry." And with this text came an attachment. In other instances, emails seemed to show a certain error, and for the email to form correctly, you had to open the attachment, where the virus was obviously located. So when the attachment got opened, the Mydoom virus infected the computer and it spread itself further, sending messages to the infected computer user's contact list. Similar to the Iloveyou virus, but the difference is that the infected devices were now connected to a botnet that, when activated, could perform denial of service attacks, more commonly known as DDoS attacks. Mydoom had such an impact that it brought down Google on July 26, 2004, stopping users from performing web searches for most of the day. The attack also slowed the performance of other popular search engines at the time, such as Yahoo, Lycos, and Alta Vista. People using infected PCs were most likely unaware that something was wrong. They may have had slow or unreliable service. However, they were unlikely to receive an alarm or notice that their systems were malfunctioning. The worm was able to spread thanks to code hidden deep within the Windows environment. And what is truly fascinating is that this virus is still active today, because according to analysis by Unit 42, 1% of all email traffic that contains a malware is related to Mydoom. In total, the Mydoom virus has caused $38 billion in damage, making it the most destructive computer virus ever created. Craziest part is that the creator of the virus has not been tracked, although the virus does resemble other forms that were generated in Russian labs at the time. But suspicion isn't proof, and no one truly knows who or why this code was generated in the first place. Stay safe on the internet, guys, and God bless.